Yo, what is good, YouTube? Welcome back to another JC2K video. In today's video, we are talking about gameplay for 2K26 and kind of my hopes for gameplay. I think at this point, it's already pretty much everything's been finalized for 2K26 gameplay. Like, I'm sure they're pretty much putting the finishing touches on the game at this point if it's not already done gameplay-wise. So nothing I say in this video or anybody else says is going to change that. But I do want to express my hopes for some things that I want to see change in 2K26's gameplay. So before we hop into it, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Help me push towards the 50,000 subscriber mark on the channel. I upload every single day. Multiple videos a day. Would really appreciate it if y'all do subscribe. Without further ado, let's get into it. Now, I do want to say this is my opinion. You don't have to agree with me. If you don't agree with me, that's completely and utterly fine. Feel free to let me know what you agree and don't agree with and what your biggest things that you'd like to see tweaked about 2K26 gameplay would be. Again, it's all opinion. Everybody's entitled to their own. Everybody plays the game differently, but I want to give my thoughts on things that I'd like to see changed. And number one, I want to start with probably the most pressing issue in all of NBA 2K25 MyTEAM, and that is the lack of skill gap on shooting. Specifically because no matter what, you're pretty much going to miss one of every 3 or 4 shots. Kind of no matter what. The way that RNG shooting was this year, it just wasn't. I mean, yes, it was skill based, but I feel like shooting was less skill based this year because the game would just make you miss after you made 2 or 3 in a row with a player. You were going to miss no matter what. There were shots where it was like, yeah, I don't have a chance to green the shot because I've greened 4 shots in a row and I know I'm not going to hit a 5th. The green window's moving and shifting and shrinking and changing per shot, and I don't think that should be the case. And I will say, this does sound as though it is something that might be getting tweaked for 2K26 because the shot meter they did announce is going to have the green window visible on it again this year, which makes me think we might have a pure green window returning, which would mean a non-changing, probably smaller, but consistent green window, which would, in my opinion, put more of a skill gap in shooting the way that it used to be in 2K20, 2K21, 2K22. Now, to be fair, those games you could also make whites. I don't think you're going to be making whites on at least on the higher competitive difficulties this next year. It sounds as though you're not going to be making whites. What I would love is a difficult but rewarding shooting system that has a pretty small green window, like a 2K21, 2K22 green window, something like that. Whichever, I forget which of those 2 games had the bigger green window, to be totally honest. I think 2K22. 2K21, there were a lot of whites. It was a very small green window, if I remember correctly, but something like 2K22 green window with no whites going in or something like that. Now, I do think whites are probably going to go in Showdown. My guess is that whites are only not going to go in like Hall of Fame and King of the Court, maybe things like that. I would hope King of the Court includes that competitive difficulty where it's only green or miss, especially with it being the mode that's going to have $10,000 a week being earnable. So that's one thing that I'd like to see. I hope King of the Court is on whatever the competitive difficulty they're talking about is that's going to prevent you from making whites. And I hope that the shooting is consistent. Therefore, if you are good at shooting, you will get rewarded and you can green tough shots. But also, I think contested shots were a little too easy to green this year. I don't mind 1 out of every 15 or 20 lightlies being greened, you know what I mean? But I don't want my opponent in Showdown coming down and smacking 3 lightly contests in a row, hitting 6 lightlies and 2 tights in a game. Like, stuff like that happens far too often. And I will say, to be completely fair, it happens to benefit me as well. I will make bad shots pretty consistently. You'll see it in my gameplay. I green a tight. It happens all the time. I miss a wide open shot and I green a tight. Like, it's not new to this year at all, but it feels more emphasized this year. A lot of like inconsistency to shooting where it's like, I feel like I shot the ball the same way, but the wide open one that should have the much bigger green window and much easier to green, I missed. And then I make the contested one right after it. You know what I mean? It's just inconsistent is how I feel about the shooting this year. And certainly sometimes that's my own inputs being off once and on the other time. But other times I really truly just believe it's the game. So the shooting is the number one thing that I'd like to see worked on. Now, outside of the shooting, I think the movement itself needs to be more free, because the fact of the matter is, look, this is a 7-footer with the best SIGs in the game, and the amount of separation you can create this year just isn't great. The fact that you can only run out of a dribble move. You can only run out of a dribble move with 1 dribble style, Darius Garland dribble style, that you get an actual burst run animation out of, is ridiculous. Every card should be able to run. I don't understand why they limit the way that these guys can burst. And I'm not asking for the fastest, glitchiest speed bursts ever, but why does every card not just have the same dribble style? I mean, I guess you don't want to have the same dribble style on every card. And I guess I understand that the importance of different dribble styles, but like in 2K24, we had the timing burst, which I didn't love 2K24's gameplay, but I thought the fact that you could burst with everybody was a plus, you know what I mean? And then how fast they bursted based on their lightning launch, I believe was the badge, or what badge? What was it? Speed booster in 2K24? I don't remember what badge we had last year. Was it lightning launch or speed booster? I don't even remember at this point, to be totally honest. But either way, I just think, I don't know. I think that the movement isn't crisp enough. I don't think it's smooth enough. And I think that it's not creative enough either. You're very limited in terms of the actual combos you can do. You have to input things absolutely perfectly timing wise for them to trigger. Otherwise they won't. It's just, it feels like it's more restrictive, less creative, and less rewarding than the dribbling used to be. You used to be able to combine stuff and combo and do different things to create space. And there was more of a skill gap to dribbling in 2K21, 2K20, 2K19 games like that, especially 2K18 and like games like that, which I didn't even play, but you go back and watch and look at the way that they were able to dribble back then. It's like, why is the dribbling gone backwards? You know what I mean? And I understand the concept of pro play and how they want more realism in the gameplay. It's a video game and people want arcadey styles of game for the most part. I think most people have not enjoyed how slow the last couple of 2Ks have been, and enjoyed the freedom of the more arcadey gameplay in 2K20 and 2K21 and games like that. And while those games weren't perfect, look, I think, and not everybody will agree with me on this. Again, I know this is my opinion. I think most people, and I am certainly one of them, would rather play an 80 to 79 game than a 45 to 40 game. You know what I mean? That's just my personal opinion. Scoring is fun. Three hunting and having the ability to create space is fun. Having the ability to have a real quick stop and not have to do these kind of clunky bursts and peaks and stuff, and like being able to just dribble and stop and pop the way you used to be able to without getting these slow fade animations. I mean, they talk about these precise foot stops and launches and stuff, and this year it just seems like nobody could launch out of anything. There was no speed to any of the launches, and the foot stops were unprecise as hell. The only way to get a foot stop is to do a peak. That's it. You can't get your feet set otherwise, and unless you just wait forever. And it's like, I don't know. I think the movement this year was very clunky, and that's another thing that I'd really like to see improved upon. Another thing that I'd really like to see improved upon for 2K26 is off-ball defense. It's something I've complained about the last couple of years, but in 2K22, 2K21, you could slide the CPU defender. If you were good at dribbling, you could create space from them, burst, and shoot and get enough space to get an open shot, even on an elite CPU defender. I don't think CPU defenders by themselves should ever be boxing a skilled player. They should be easier to slide and easier to move. It would encourage people to play more on-ball defense, to interact with the play more, and to develop more actual defensive skill, because a lot of people, especially at this point in the year, will just sit in the corner and have their CPU switch all and just let the game basically play for them. And while off-ball this year wasn't as good as it was in 2K24, it was insane in 2K24. This year wasn't quite as insane. I still think it was one of the best years off-ball has ever been in my team in terms of just how effective it is and how little skill defense sometimes takes. And that's another thing that I'd really like to see changed for next year's gameplay. Is I just think you should be rewarded more for on-ball defense than off-ball. You should be getting slid when you are not clicking on ball. You should have to click on ball to contest, otherwise you should get shot over. Like, make people do skillful things defensively, but also maybe tune down the shooting over ability of height next year as well. Because like the fact that Wemby and Ralph Sampson and guys like that can just shoot over anybody, like for example, this Dirk, if he's going up against a 6'7" shooting guard, I could just shoot in the shooting guard's face. Unless he times his jump perfectly and gets up in my face, it's going to be open or at the most like a weak contest. And it's just being able to shoot in people's face the way that you can right now, I think is kind of dumb. I think being able to shoot in a CPU defender's face, completely fine. Being able to shoot in a contesting defender's face, even if they're a little shorter, to me is too easy. Now, if it's a 6'2" dude compared to 7'2" dude, I get it. But when it's 6'7" compared to 6'11", I don't know. I feel like they should be able to get a contest. That's my opinion. That being said, I think the one last thing that I do want to mention is that there are a ton of other gameplay changes that could be talked about, and I think a lot more specific things. These are more broad ideas of things that I'd like to see improved upon for next year. But one more specific thing that is my team specific that I want to see, and it's not as much about the gameplay as it is about the cards. Early in 2K26, please put an emphasis on souping small point guards. Like, let's see Steph Curry and Kyrie Irving and Damian Lillard and Allen Iverson and Isaiah Thomas and whoever, like, et cetera, et cetera. I could go on and on and on. There's all these names of these current and legendary smaller PGs that are gonna get cards, we know. Make them impressively good early in the year. Boost their stats and badges. Drop their intangible stats so they can have better stats than their counterparts. Additionally, give them the better SIGs. Speed up their jumpers earlier. Give them better dribble styles. Like, intentionally, let's make sure that Damian Lillard can be an impactful offensive card this year, that his SIGs are good enough to do that. Kyrie Irving, Steph Curry, guys like that. Like, I think there needs to be more emphasis put towards making these small PGs more elite early in the year next year, because yes, people were still using these smaller PGs in this year's MyTEAM, but I will say, by season 2, season 3, you're pretty quickly seeing people that were running Pink Diamond SGA, Pink Diamond Booker. There was a Galaxy Opal Penny Hardaway, I believe, was in season 3. Who were the other point guards? I'm like forgetting who the other point guards were that people were running early in the year again now, but it was a lot of bigger guys, these 6'5", 6'6" point guards very quickly. And like, I don't feel like there was ever really a point this year where Steph was super elite, you know what I mean? Or anything like that. Like, he got a Pink Diamond card in season 1 and the card already sucked. Like, let's make Steph Curry good. Let's make Kyrie Irving good. Let's make Damian Lillard and Allen Iverson good early in the year, and prioritize making them look better on paper than their counterparts so that they are more competitively viable. That's another thing that I'd really like to see improved upon in MyTEAM next year, because those types of cards just don't get the love that they deserve as of late, and I think that could absolutely be changed, because 2K21, I mean, Steph Curry's best point guard in the game for the first 2 months. It's not undoable. I'll say that right now. It is absolutely not undoable. That being said, I'm sure there are a million other things we could talk about with gameplay. I just wanted to be very broad with my thoughts about how some shooting stuff needs to be tweaked. Also, less load-ups to shooting would be nice as well. I didn't really mention load-ups, but I think load-ups happen way too much this year too, which also throws up the shooting. That's part of the whole smoothness of the game thing that I keep talking about. But for me, those are kind of the main things. A smoother, a little more arcadey, fun to play offensive game. Better shooting system with less RNG and less load-ups, and tweaks to off-ball defense to make it less overpowered in MyTEAM and make people have to play a little more defense themselves. It creates more of a defensive skill gap when people are forced to interact with the play more. That's my opinion. That being said, y'all let me know what y'all think. I hope y'all did enjoy the video. If you did, make sure you hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. I'll be back with more 2K content very, very soon, and I appreciate y'all. Peace.